Tokyo Revengers comes in hot with a very eventful brawl. I mean, two gangs going up against one another, it's pretty much a sight to behold. I mean, it's one thing when like Mikey, Draken, one or two of the other crew members that are pretty high up in the rank are going up against like 5 or 6 at a time. Sure, they're getting winded, sure they might be wounded in certain cases like Draken, but they're still putting up a hell of a fight, and it's impressive to see basically a one-man army. But eventually it's going to catch up to them, and eventually they're going to lose. So to have, like, the cavalry come in on their hogs, right, and just, it completely turns the tide. While I predicted Draken would probably end up stabbed, though I'm still questioning if he's going to end up dead in this timeline, to watch the chaos unfold where, for the most part, I have to say, Mikey's gang seemingly had the edge. There were so many times that they focused in and there'd be one or two of the other ones going up against, trying to pile on them, and even if they're on the floor, they would break free, knuckle punch a couple of times, and then just be back on their feet, and 6 others would be down on the ground asking for mercy. It was just a really well-directed, choreographed fight, and I really had a lot of fun while kind of sweating bullets all at the same time. I mean, Mikey's character in this episode I thought was really intriguing, and I definitely want to touch upon him in a bit, but the question does remain, will he live? Will Draken live? Because seemingly he was stabbed the exact same way as in the original timeline. The difference, I think, is going to be that he might be able to get to a hospital in time. Before, we didn't have Takemichi kind of cool, calm and collect someone like Mikey. I mean, look at what Mikey did in this episode. He was willing to get punched, willing to take the blame, whatever needs to be done, because he doesn't want to hurt his brother in arms here. So I'm curious to see if Takemichi will be able to, like, sound Mikey, say, hey Mikey, shit just hit the fan, he got wounded, if they'll all just completely switch over. Maybe Mikey will unlock his Hulk mode and just, wrap up this fight rather quickly. I'm still very 50-50 on whether Draken will live or die because I can see 2 equally interesting scenarios. 1, if Draken lives, there's still the threat of him dying in the future, and if he dies in the future, that could then trigger Mikey to go into a downward spiral, trust the wrong people. On the flip side, if he ends up dead here or in other places, Takemichi could be the replacement that keeps someone like Mikey in line and doesn't go down the wrong path. It'd be much more of a struggle. The more voices of reason we have to, try to tame someone like Mikey, the better. But either way would work, but I'm still very 50-50 on who's going to make it out alive. And right now, I mean, either or would work for me, and I'm just kind of here for the ride to see where they're going to go from here. But like I said, Mikey's character in this episode was very interesting. I mean, when he comes in, you hear his motorcycle. You know something's about to go down. He comes in, he does his incredible kick. When Mikey gets serious, and he pretty much sucker punches, but in his case, it's like a sucker kick, and someone ends up blocking it, you know shit's about to go down. The mastermind, the puppeteer, the one pulling the strings. Who's been going down this rabbit hole, and this is the man. This man seemingly can match someone like Mikey's physique, but also can pull the strings in such a way to cause this amount of chaos. Even if everything works out in this situation, there's going to be a different one. I mean, let's just say, hypothetically, Takemichi somehow solves this issue, or just naturally his involvement helps to solve the issue. Draken lives, maybe he's in a coma, maybe he's just in the hospital, no matter what, let's just say everyone on their side gets out. He goes forward in time, there's going to be a different newspaper that's going to say something other shitty happened, right? There's going to be a long-term struggle, so it'll be interesting to see what's ultimately going to occur, but seeing someone like Mikey not attack someone who betrayed him, but rather saw from his perspective why he could be led down that hole, and how he could see that maybe some people are seeing it as him just abandoning one of their own, which then could cause some to revolt and go back against him. So rather than punching him, rather than trying to kill him, he says, punch me until you feel good, but I'm not going to attack one of my own brothers. That's the type of, relationship building that someone like Takemichi and Draken have upon Mikey. Without those two, he would never do something like that. He probably would just full on kick him in the balls, kick him in the face, call it a day, kill him, right? Because how dare you betray me? The Mikey supposedly we see in the future is very different than the Mikey we see in the past. And it's interesting to see how positive of an impact these two characters have had on Mikey. And with one of them gone, it could cause something to go very, very wrong. So I guess time will tell to see where we're going to go from here. Though it was interesting to see that one of the questions I honestly had after last week was we knew that the parking lot is where shit hits the fan. we were in the parking lot last week. Turns out there's another one. And of course, it had to be the one that's behind everything where no one would see. So it makes a lot of sense why, a gang war could go on for so long before police get involved and things like that. But honestly, for a while, I was thinking Draken was going to get stabbed. And then up until, I'd say the last couple of minutes, I was like, maybe, he'll get stabbed next week. I mean, seemingly the brawl's continuing to go on. And then you just see the scumbag walk by, the knife is dripping, and you just see him laying on the floor. And I'm like, okay, this is about to get bad. I'm very curious to see if they do pull Draken out of this one and he gets to stay alive, how it's going to be, because the logical explanation would be an ambulance, get him to the ER, something like that. But how do you stop a gang fight? The only thing I could think of is their gang ending up destroying them because in a fit of rage, how dare you? They all kind of get this adrenaline rush power up to just, not value their own life, so they do a lot more riskier blows that completely wipes them and they have to retreat. I can see something like that happening, but then again, this is a pretty unpredictable series in a lot of ways, so it'll be interesting to see where they're going to take it. But overall, from the directing on the fighting side to even some of the more emotional standoffs, I mean, if looks could kill, there was plenty of characters that probably would have sent us to 6 foot under quite a few times. Mikey, this man pulling the strings, there was a lot of looks that kind of sent a chill up my spine, and you wouldn't have it any other way. I'm still very curious if this is going to be a back-to-back T-Core, because there still is no information. All I remember is that before this started up, it was, I think, seemingly confirmed to be 24 episodes, but I still have no information. Are we going to stop at episode 12, come back later, or is it going to continue on into the summer season? I'm hoping it continues on into the summer season, but I mean, if they need more time for the production, I'm not going to be crying about it. It's completely understandable. I mean, I think this was the first time we even saw them on their bikes and having literally a wave of bikes come in. It was pretty intimidating for sure. And it's going to be interesting to see, of course we've seen them on their bikes before, but we never really seen them ride into battle on their hogs doing this shit. It was absolutely inspiring and frightening all at the same time. And I saw some people say it's hard to believe that they're high school kids doing this. I really don't think so. Back in the past, I mean, gangs were pretty much like this for sure. Of course, modern day gangs are just these 12 to 15 year olds who have automatic assault rifles and shit like that. But they're not obviously beating the shit out of people the same way the Tokyo Manji gang is, right? But in terms of their physique and, how they're fighting, of course there's some anime flair to it. But I mean, you can just go throughout history and look at what gangs were like for a lot of these younger people, and it's absolutely exactly like that. I mean, it's pretty crazy to look through history and see the different forms of gangs and delinquents that were out there, and just how over time it's changed from less of beating the shit out of people to more of just pointing who has the biggest gun at people, and age kind of doesn't even matter anymore, seemingly, which is a frightening thing. But I mean, some people seem to really be latching onto that thought process that there's no way. I saw one person with a JoJo avatar, and I just thought it was hilarious that they were complaining that for their age, they don't really match what they're doing, when, JoJo has some of the craziest 15-year-olds who look like they should be in professional wrestling. I don't think it's a big deal, and I think when you really look through history, it does all line up. And of course, there's anime flair, but you want there to be anime flair. It's anime, right? But let me know your thoughts and feelings on this week's episode of Tokyo Revengers, and where do you think it's going to go if you haven't read the source material on Draken's seemingly death? Do you think he's going to pull out of it, or do you think time's going to stick to a certain formula and maybe Takemichi has to rise to the occasion to fill the hole that maybe Draken will leave on Mikey's heart? But let me know your feelings down below, drop a like to help promote the video, and of course subscribe if you're new around here. So until next time everyone, please take care and have a good one.